Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dairy Raid and another morning walk and talk. This time from my living room. Went out this morning and recorded said walk and talk. And when I brought it back and started the editing process, about the middle third of it, the audio was just completely unusable. The wind, like I've said in the past here, especially in the winter, gets really bad and just destroyed the audio. And I have an external microphone with a wind guard. It sounds even worse. So it is what it is. And when you add the wind on top of the temperature,
colder than a witch's titty out there, isn't it?
wind on top of the temperature, I don't really want to have to go back outside unless I have to. And I don't. So we're going to sit here from the easy chair and we are going to go through the stories of the week that is Wisconsin football. But before I do that, just one thing I wanted to briefly mention. 2025 is going to be the 20th anniversary, I guess you could say, of my first head coaching job that I got at the senior level. And that was back in 2005 in Finland. And the reason why that team right now is especially on my mind is I found out that over the weekend, one of my players from that team, a guy named Ari Somalainen, passed away. Ari was the rock of my defense. He was a veteran, bulldog, old school kind of guy. And he played defensive end for me. He played middle linebacker. He played wherever I needed to. And he was that guy I could trust. Good guy off the field. Spent a lot of time with him. So just want to say briefly, rest in peace, my friend. And we'll see you again someday. Anyways, let's get back to Wisconsin football. Don't want to break it down too much. I did solicit for questions for this mailbag, last week at some point. And it's weird. About half the responses I got were basically snarky comments about the basketball team, because I think people have this idea that because I'm a football guy, I am hostile towards the basketball program. I'm in the fire guard camp and all that kind of stuff. I'm not. Been a Wisconsin basketball fan my whole life. I was at the NIT game against Manhattan way back in the day. And I just haven't focused on basketball as much lately because football has become more of an interest to me. All I can say, though, about the basketball team, Kirk Penny. That's why we're good. Anyways, the other half of what I receive comments and questions are basically were pertaining to what has become the In Focus series that I've been doing that wrapped up yesterday, where I took some of the key aspects of the incoming Jeff Grimes offensive philosophy and broke them down both in the classroom and in the film room. And so we went through the wide zone, the vertical passing game, play action, and then yesterday we finished up with complementary plays and the idea of complementary play design. And so that's all together. And there's a playlist. And if I'm smart enough and I remember, I will put a link to the playlist right there if you want to get even more information on what we can expect from the offense this year. And this time with better audio quality than we had in the original Grimes scheme breakdown video. So check it out there if you will. So from there, let's get into the news of this week. And really, there are only two key things to talk about. First up, let's talk about Max Steinecker and his departure and taking a job at USC. I think two things that I can say from this. First, RIP Wisconsin football. But what I can think with this is, one, I guarantee you Luke Fickell wanted to keep him. I guarantee he did. Guarantee USC offered way more money And two things could have happened. Either Wisconsin cheaped out, or USC basically gave him a blank check. And Max is a young guy. He's an up-and-comer. He is a big name that is going to ascend the ladder in this personnel department game very fast. He could be an NFL general manager at some point in the next 5 to 10 years. And to develop the name for himself at Wisconsin and then go to a bigger program, and USC is a bigger program, regardless of what you think about their on-the-field product, bigger program, bigger market, bigger spotlight, different recruiting pool, and loyalty can only take you so far. And I think it's a good thing that Max takes this opportunity and runs with it with USC. The type of person he seems to be, could really help that program and help bring it back to where it should be. That being said, this should, as always, serve as a reminder that if Wisconsin football wants to compete with the Blue Bloods and build the program beyond being the best team in the Big Ten West, they need to spend money to bring in the best and keep the best. And it just has to happen. Now, the one thing I am confident in with this whole situation is, unlike when Saeed left to go to Michigan State and Paul Chryst decided we don't need a recruiting department, Luke Fickell understands the importance of the job that Max Steinecker had. Someone will be in his place. He probably is already there. I wouldn't be surprised, or I would assume that Pat Lambert would assume that role, and they would cycle people up through the ranks to find the next Max Steinecker. And there are several young people within the UW recruiting department who could be the next guy. So, as much as it pains me to see the end of Wisconsin football with Max leaving, I think we're going to be okay. So, moving on. The next big topic obviously is Nazir Forkarin, and he decided to sue the NCAA to regain eligibility. And there were two angles that I've seen this go for, and they both kind of were brought in. One was the idea that being at a D2 school does not offer the same opportunities in NIL that Division I does, which is true, and therefore should be considered separate entities, and therefore have different eligibility rules. I'm not 100% on that. But then also the idea that his 2021 season, he lost a year of eligibility where he had missed most of summer workouts for both the death of his father and injury, and the playing time that he did get that year, which exhausted or took away his redshirt opportunity, were meaningless special teams reps. So the way that I read it, and I could see when it was approved, it says Nazir Forkarin's hardship was approved. Hardship waiver was approved. And if that's the angle we're going for, then that makes sense, especially in an era where players are playing 6, 7, 8, 9, probably soon to be 10 years of college football. So for a kid who's played 4 years to get a 5th year, and he has, I think, a relatively solid argument, I'm fine with it. He's not taking away opportunities from anybody else. They would have pursued more, and they would have still pursued more in the transfer portal to get more veteran bodies in that room so they wouldn't have to go with Ricardo Holman and a bunch of freshmen. Now, we take a room that after the Minnesota game and after the wave of players left via the portal, from the idea of having true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, starting at cornerback, to now having both Ricardo Holman, who had opportunities to go other places, whether it be the NFL or taking advantage of NIL opportunities in college football, and then Nizer Forkarine, who probably was the best defensive back we had on the team last year. Now they're both back. And that says a lot about, one, now the cornerback room could be one of our strengths, because not only do we have those two back, but we got two corners in the transfer portal, and we've got a solid group of young corners behind it. Yes, we lost some bodies, and we lost some bodies because there seemed to be a difference in philosophy between some of the corners that we had and Paul Haynes. Where I don't take a huge amount of stock in that is you have Ricardo Holman, who again would have had opportunities to take his skills elsewhere. Again, whether it be the NFL or NIL, he chose to come back. Nizer Forkarine went to court to fight to come back, assuming he is sticking around for another year at Wisconsin. Yes, he could leave in the spring window, sure. But anyways, he fought to come back here. And when the two, veterans of the room, the true leader of the room, and the best player in the room decide to come back, and a bunch of kids who got no playing time decide to leave, I don't necessarily see where the issue is. But sometimes you have kids who want to play me ball instead of team ball. And that's, I think, the situation that we ended up with. And now we don't have to worry about it because we get our two starting corners back this year. And now the cornerback room is one of our strengths, which we're going to need with a surely to be revamped defensive system this upcoming season. So that'll be interesting to see. All right. I think we're going to call it there for this week because, well, really, we had a couple stories. We talked about it. What else is there to talk about right now? Which leads me to putting this question out for you guys. Obviously between now and spring ball, we watch the news wire and think about things to talk about, but we're pretty set on scheme, pretty set on the roster. There's not going to be much until we get some film, right? So I leave the question out to you guys. What topics would you want to hear me talk about in videos like this, in the classroom, in the film room, whatever? The Dairy Raid has evolved over the last 2 years from a channel that was started mainly to dispel the negative aspects of the air raid offense and educate Wisconsin fans on what that offense really was, to now this channel is basically all about the overall idea of looking at Wisconsin football from a coach's perspective and trying to fill in the gaps to help improve your game day fandom experience. So with that being said, what is a topic that we need to discuss and we need to go into detail on the channel? So I post that to you. If you have responses, either put them in the mailbag, put them in the comments below. You know where to find me. And we will fill some of the time between now and spring ball. So, yeah, I think that's it. We're going to call it there. Thanks for slumming it with me in my living room. Hopefully next time we can actually walk and talk and not get killed by the wind. But until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.